this was definitely worth the trip from London. I personally don't think I've ever seen such a great turnout for an analytics event, so that's great. And thanks also to the team here and to Vinny for asking me back. I love any excuse to come back to Singapore, and on top of it, I get to talk about analytics. So this is the perfect trip, really. And as an added bonus this year, I was told that I could talk about anything I wanted. I could pick the subject of my presentation and just go wild with it. And it took me about 10 seconds to decide on segmentation. To me, web analytics, oh God, that got really loud now. Web analytics without segmentation, it's no analysis, that's just reporting. When I first got given access to analytics a couple of years ago, I remember looking at the dashboard thinking, you know, this is all quite pretty and colors are nice, and yeah, it's good to know that I'm having X amount of visitors a day or so many page views, but at the end of the day, so what, right? I mean, I have all these numbers, but what do I do with it? And actually, in some twisted big brother, you know, kind of big brother way, I did like the screen resolution report because I thought that was quite cool. I could see what was the computer size of my visitors. Completely useless, but it was cool. And it's only after I learned about segmentation and I started applying it to my reports that finally things started to make sense. And I'm not alone in this belief. I mean, Avinash Kaushik, Google's very own analytics evangelist, says, analyzing data in aggregate is a crime against humanity. Maybe a tad too far, but I think this pretty much settles the matter. So why do we need segmentation? If you don't use segmentation, you kind of assume that all your website visitors are identical. So all the 500-600 people in the room, they're all the same. We all like the same things, we all dress the same way, and we all use the same search engine, clearly, and of course, and the same keywords, right? So take that to reality. The 10 to 20,000 visitors that come to my site every day, they all come there to book my hotels. They're all really desperate to stay there. They all use the same search engine. And then by some sort of mystery and magic, only 2% do. But hey-ho. And the reality is actually very different. You know, some of those 10,000 visitors might be looking for a job. Some others are journalists looking for a press release. Others are only shopping around. And another might just want the address of my hotel. So it's not that I had 10,000 visitors all wanting to buy and I've lost 98% of them. Actually, maybe only 6% were there to buy. So only looking at the various segments together and looking at how each group of visitor with the same objective is behaving on your site, then you can truly understand if your conversions or your micro-conversions, you know, are happening the way they should. So here's a couple of examples of, you know, some typical segments that you could be using. Let's say you're spending money in AdWords, then you definitely want to know how your paid visitors are behaving versus your organic visitors. You know, are they looking at the same sites? Are they looking at the same product? Do they spend the same time on site? Is the bounce rate any different? Or, you know, there might be some keywords that your organic visitors are using that are proving to be very successful, and you don't have that in your paid campaigns, or vice versa. Or you might want to take a bit of a higher level view and just look at the visitors who did convert versus the ones who didn't, and find out where did they exit the page, what was the problem, and try to fix that. Or bounce versus non-bounce rate. You know, having 10,000 visitors, but 70% bounce, actually, that means you only have 3,000 visitors. And you do want to see what is happening there, and if maybe, you know, a referring site for which you're paying money is sending all this, let's say, rubbish traffic. Or you can get a little bit more creative, which is what I like doing. You can say, I want to see everyone that viewed 5 pages but didn't buy. So in this case, I have a very engaged customer. He liked enough what he saw to spend some time on the site, looked at a few pages, but something happened, and I lost him somewhere in between there. So this is definitely something that I want to see a bit more closely and see if I can prevent that from happening again. Or if I have a site that has customer reviews and I want to increase my user-generated content, either from SEO purposes, for traffic purposes, then I want to create a segment and look at my visitors that have posted a comment on the site, see which search engine, we're referring site is sending me those visitors, what keywords are they using, and see if I can do something else to get more of those valuable visitors. Or maybe in some cases, if you have a blog, a bounce rate is not such a bad thing, because they might just come to your blog, look, read the latest post you've made, and then leave. So in that case, a single page visit is not such a big issue. But what you want to look at is maybe the time on site. If they stayed less than 10, 20 seconds, that might give you a better indication if they were engaged at all. And I think 20 to 30 seconds is a fair assumption that they weren't, unless your blog posts are really short. So what tools are available in Google Analytics to make this happen? There's two. Both of them were launched last year. One is Advanced Segment, and the other one is Custom Variable. And both of them do kind of the same thing, but in very different ways. So the first one we're going to look at is Advanced Segment. You access it by clicking on the top right-hand corner. And you can see on the left-hand side, there is a list of default segments that Google already prepared for you. So you can just click on it and apply it to all your reports. And then on the right-hand side, there's a list of custom segments, which is the ones that you end up creating. And to create one, you see on the left-hand side, there's just a simple link, create an advanced segment. You click on it. You get to this page. You have a list of dimension and metrics on the left-hand side, and you simply drag them over and create your own segment. Like I've done here, page depth greater than 3 and transaction 0. Who looked at more than 3 pages and didn't book a thing? So let's see in business terms how we can use that. The first thing we do before we start creating segments is we set our goals. So as Beth said earlier, always set your goals first for anything. So my goal here was to run a pay-per-click campaign for the Swissotel de Stamford here in Singapore. So they came to me last year and said, we really want to start. We have some budget. Where should we do this and how should we do it? So the first thing I did was, well, let's see, first of all, in which country we should be running this campaign. So let's see the visitors report, and we can see that Singapore sends us almost 50% of our traffic. So that's quite impressive. And then we have Australia, United Kingdom, and the United States. But visitors doesn't really mean that they're actually buying anything. So we change the drop-down, and we look at conversion. In my case, I looked at transaction, but that was sharing too much information, so you just get to see the conversion one. And we can see the local people here from Singapore that come to my site, but they're actually not buying much. So I think they're all going to look and see what's happening in Equinox. And so I settled then for Australia, United Kingdom, and United States. Those three were in my top 5 countries in terms of traffic and had the highest conversion. So we set up the campaign on those 3 countries, keywords, landing pages, all done. And then after about a month, it was time to review the campaign and see how things were going. So I started and create my own campaign segment. So I have visitors that came from these 3 campaigns together, and we call it Google PPC Stamford. And then we go back to our country report and see how we're doing with that. And actually, initially it's not bad. United States, the PPC group converts almost 3 times as high as the organic one, as the other visitors, so that's good. Australia is not, it's quite good too, 2.3 versus 1.9, so definitely higher. While the United Kingdom, we are not doing, incredibly well there. It's kind of a similar conversion, so not too exciting. But if we dig a little bit deeper and we look at the transaction, again, Australia, United States, almost 90% of the transaction come from these 2 countries. United Kingdom, not good. But then, if we look at the average order value, actually, we, the Brits, we're spending twice as much as the Australian and the Americans. So we definitely want more Brits. So how do we do that? Now, we need to figure out what is it that the Brits want or are doing differently from the Americans and the Australians. And we dig a little bit deeper, and I created a little segment for just the UK campaign, one segment just for the Australian and one for the American. And then we look at the content. So we can see here, hopefully you can see, but in the top 5 pages visited by the Australian, they go and look at promotions, for example, while the Brits are looking more at the spa pages, the restaurants. So they seem to have a different perspective on it. The Australians are probably looking more for deals. The Brits are trying to understand, how the hotel is in terms of my lifestyle value. Have they got nice restaurants? Is there a nice spa? Maybe they're coming more for leisure. So we repeated the whole comparison for the keyword report, for the landing pages, for the ad position, the ad text, and optimized for the next 6 months. As a result, after 6 months of doing the exercise, we have 28% now coming from England. Hey. And the average order value remains really high. The Australian order value has doubled, and the US has increased slightly. Overall, in 6 months, by the end of the 6 months, we have 67% increase in revenue versus the initial time of the campaign. We decreased our cost by almost 22%. We increased our average value by 27%. We doubled our conversion rate, and we doubled our ROI. A very happy hotel. And that's just by applying a couple of segments and work your way through methodically every single month. Now, let's say you don't have an e-commerce site and you don't have money for a pay-per-click campaign, so what can you do with it? Well, we have one of those cases, our loyalty website. We have our own loyalty program called Club Swiss Gold, which has its own website, and we don't have a budget for pay-per-click to promote our loyalty program, and we don't sell anything on this website. The only thing that we want is to get more members. We want people to sign up to our loyalty program, and that's our goal. So what can we do? We create a segment. Let's see we create a segment for anyone that signed up to become a member online. And then we can go to our country report, we can go to our traffic sources report and see which search engine or which referring site is sending us these customers. In which country are we being more successful? Do we need to create new languages maybe? And work our way through that. So that's one example for a non-e-commerce site. Or let's say you are starting out in social media, which is the big thing right now and everyone is giving it a go, but not many people can do really well. And we also just started about a year ago, not experts yet. So what we're trying to figure out is how different are our Twitter visitors versus our Facebook visitors. And then how can we optimize our posts and our activities online to match this type of visitors. So I create a segment, one for Twitter, one for Facebook. And then we go and see, first of all, at the country report. And you can see immediately that Twitter, 43% of our Twitter visitors coming to the site are based in one country. They're based in Switzerland. And then we have the Netherlands, Turkey, United Kingdom. While Facebook is much more spread out, our number one country is actually Singapore. And then we have Turkey, Switzerland, United States, United Kingdom, and so on. So first of all, we already know that we're dealing with completely different nationalities. Then when we look at the content, we see the third most visited page by our Facebook group is check rates and availability. So we have people there that are coming from Facebook, but they're actually checking out our rates and see if they can make a booking. So that's really good news. Twitter, on the other hand, they don't look at our rates at all. They're going to a press room and they're looking at destination sitemap. So just looking at this, it seems that Twitter is attracting much more B2B business, our journalists, for example, maybe investors, while our Facebook activities are attracting actually potential customers. And with this sort of information, then we can adapt our tweets or posts accordingly. The next stage of this will be adding tracking code to any promotion that we post or any important announcement that we post on these sites. And then we will keep on optimizing the campaign. And when you come back next year, I'll let you know how it's gone. So that's. But in the meanwhile, as a little bonus feature, I've created a segment that will group together all your social media traffic. It's got Delicious in it, Digit, all the social media sites, friend feed, Wikipedia, Facebook, everything in one segment. So if you go to that link, you can then just copy paste it, apply it to your website, and you're done. And there's no fees. So in summary, you've seen pretty much that the sky's the limit when it comes to advanced segments. You can be as flexible as you can, and you can create as many as you like based on your business goals. They can be utilized ad hoc. There's no tagging required, which is extremely rare these days with any analytics tool. You can test them, they're interactive, and then you can share them, just as I did with my social media one. And Vinny has posted a great list of useful segments that are applicable to most sites. So if you go to the Southeast Asia Google Analytics blog post, that's the link there, you will find some really great tips. Now, custom variables. Custom variables are completely different. It's not a completely different kettle of fish, but it's much more sophisticated. Custom variables will let you identify the visitors or the segments that are really important to your business that can possibly not be identified with advanced segments. So, for example, if you have members on your site and you have gold members, platinum, and silver, with custom variable, you can identify and segment all your silver, card, and platinum members, and then look at how the three groups interact with your site, what product they book, what keywords they use. Or you can see if you have a page that requires login, you can see how many people log in, and then how the people that log in differ from the ones that haven't logged in. Or you can see how many people that have posted a comment. You can do a custom variable for that and then identify those. Something happened here. I have created, for example, 6 custom variables, and I have logged in members, languages, some site sections, and you can see here, I have, for example, 5 languages on my website, and not the whole content is translated in all 5 languages. So until now, it was really difficult for me to know how much is each language contributing in terms of conversion traffic. And just doing a filter in the content report is impossible, because if I just do filter anything which has DE in it or EN in the URL, wouldn't come out, right? So with custom variable, you can do that, and then you can click on each tag, and I can see what's the conversion by language and what's the e-commerce value by language, which is incredibly useful. So if I see that, for example, one language is really underperforming, that would be a good indicator for me to understand that maybe the language, that we have some language issues there, and I can go and fix it. You can create your own segment with custom variables. So let's say I want to understand what our German visitors are doing onto the website. I create a segment with it, and then I can go and look at what content they're using, what referring site, what search engine, and optimize accordingly. And I then create my own custom report and send it out to all the various stakeholders in the company. They are very powerful, as we can see. You can now define and track visitors based on visitor attribute, as we've seen, or session attribute, or page attribute. So let's say if you have a product, a site with 100 different products, or you have a news site with all sorts of sections, sports, latest events, lifestyle, you can now put custom variables on sections of the site and see how each section is performing. They can be used with advanced segments and reports that we've seen, but they do require additional tagging. So what I would suggest is that plan it out in advance and then make sure that you have the whole list of custom variables that you want to use before you start tagging. So my final takeaways: set your goals first and then work on your segments. Apply different segments on the goal based on the goals of each section. So my press room will have different goals from my product pages. My job section will have its own goals itself. So each section of the site will have its own set of goals, and then each own set of goals will have its own segments. Try, go crazy, be creative, try different things, location-based, keyword, traffic, and line. But to start with, I would suggest that you don't go too deep. Start with some high-level segment, and then slowly work your way down and dig deeper. And since I started the presentation with a quote, only fair I end it with one, and this is one of my favorites. That is, if you can't measure it, you cannot improve it. Thank you very much.